Vikings in the main sense refer to a tribe of warriors, traders, and settlers from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark who conquered, occupied, and colonized much of England, Normandy, and Russia between about 657 and 1047. They also raided Spain, Morocco, and Italy, and traded with the Byzantine Empire, Persia, and India. The Vikings also discovered and occupied Iceland and Greenland, sailing to the North American continent. They were skilled sailors who dared to sail out into the Atlantic Ocean to find islands to make a living and live in peace and happiness, free from the disturbances of other tribes. The Vikings were the first Europeans to sail out into the deep sea, floating amidst the waves and sunlight, looking around and seeing only the horizon and the water. But in their search for new lands, the Vikings used the method of releasing the cuckoos they had brought with them from their cages. When the cuckoos escaped their cages, they would fly in circles high into the air. If they flew back the same way, it meant that there was no land ahead. But if it flew into the sea in a certain direction, the Vikings would know immediately that there must be a distant land beyond sight, which they could sail and search for. The Vikings invaded England on the coast of Northumbria, in northern England, on June 8, 793, burning down the church of Lindisfarne and killing all the priests. 2 years later, they advanced deep into the English mainland in what is now Scotland, invading Ireland and establishing Viking kingdoms in Dublin, Limerick, and Waterford. Although the Vikings initially destroyed the churches and killed the priests, they eventually converted to Christianity. The Vikings conquered several towns, and a Viking king named Harold Bluetooth took control of England and Ireland. In 874, Eric the Red, an exiled Viking warrior from Ireland, emigrated with his family and 25 ships to west and found Greenland. Although Greenland was covered with snow and ice all year round, Eric wanted the name of the island to attract other adventurers. So he named the island he found Greenland, Greenland. In 985 AD, Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, reported the discovery of what historians today believe to be Labrador, Newfoundland, and New England. Because Leif described that this new land had forests, wheat fields, and vineyards. But the Vikings did not settle in this new land for long before they were invaded by the natives and had to migrate back to Greenland. These events occurred about 500 years before Christopher Columbus discovered America. A Viking ship on display at the Oslo Museum in Norway. Because of the nature of being a sea raider who had to be strong, fierce, and fearless, the Vikings had a reputation or nickname for being cruel and destructive. But as traders and colonial rulers, the Vikings were considered to have a high role and influence in the development of medieval Europe. The Vikings' early overseas settlements included the establishment of the city of Orkney and the Shetland Islands, which were under Norwegian rule until 1472. The period considered the Viking Age was between 793 and 1066, which ended approximately between the Changsein and Harafanchai eras, or 183 years before the establishment of the Farong dynasty by King Sri Indrathit, 1249. According to records, the period from the 790s until the Norman conquest of England in 1066 was considered the Viking Age in Scandinavian history. The Vikings used the Norwegian Sea and the Baltic Sea as a route to the south and extended their influence down to the Duchy of Normandy in the 10th century before their descendants became Normans. The Viking descendants who dominated northern Europe at the time included Harold Godwin's son, the last Anglo-Saxon king of England, whose ancestors were Danish, and 2 Vikings who ruled the English throne, Sweyn Forkbeard, who ruled England from 1013 to 1014, and his son, Knut the Great, who ruled England from 1016 to 1035. Geographically, the Viking Age was not limited to Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, but also included the Germanic territories of Northumbria, the Danelaw, Scandinavian York, the remaining administrative centers of the Kingdom of Northumbria, parts of the Kingdom of Mercia, and the Kingdom of East Anglia. The Vikings also opened new routes to the north, west, and east, leading to independent settlements in Shetland, Orkney, and the Faroe Islands in Iceland, Greenland, and Mons de Angelis. There was also a brief settlement in Newfoundland and Labrador. This may have been an accidental accident by the crew, and the Greenland settlement may have been abandoned due to climate change. The Viking dynasty, Rurik, controlled Slavic and Finno-Ugric lands in Eastern Europe and annexed Kiev in 882 under the Kievan Rus. As early as 839, when Swedish diplomats first made friendly contact in Byzantium, Scandinavians were mercenaries for the Byzantine Empire. Towards the end of the 10th century, a new imperial guard unit, mostly Scandinavian, was formed, known as the Varangian Guard. The name Varangian may have come from Old Norse, meaning Vikings and Norsemen, but in Slavic and Greek it may have meant Scandinavians or Franks. The most famous Scandinavian in the Varangian Guard was Harald Hardrada, self-proclaimed King of Norway, 1047–66. Archaeological evidence suggests that Vikings reached Baghdad, the capital of the Abbasid Empire. The Norse used the Volga River as a regular route for trading goods such as furs, tusks, seals, and slaves. Important ports during this period included Bianca, Hydby, Kiping, Jorvik, Starahia, Ladoga, Novgorod, and Kiev. It can be said that the Norwegians spread to the north and west, settling in Ireland, Scotland, Iceland, and Greenland. The Danes reached England and France, settling in the Danelaw, northern and eastern England, and Normandy. The Swedes reached the east, reaching as far as the Kievan Rus Empire. Runes from Swedish expeditions are found to describe their invasions and journeys to Western Europe. According to Icelandic Viking legends, the Norwegians also traveled to Eastern Europe. During the Viking Age, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark did not yet exist. The Vikings were largely homogeneous, sharing similarities in culture and language despite geographical differences. The names of Scandinavian kings were known only after the Viking Age. After the end of the Viking Age, the land slowly divided into kingdoms, each with its own distinct status as a nation, along with its Christianization. Thus, the end of the Viking Age for the Scandinavians was the beginning of their Middle Ages.